I gotta find a way. I gotta find a way to get the audio to play. Is there a way that I can play the audio for everybody, Doug?
You want us just to all sing it at the same time?
True.
Oh yeah,
True.
I can play. I got my guitars in this room.
Ooh.
I'll learn to play it next time.
Why don't you sing it vocal?
Go. All right, let's begin, everyone. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Maybe I would insert some sort of like version 2, but whatever. We're back. It's been a nice hiatus for me, and I'm very excited to come back. I think the break was nice, but I'm ready, and I'm very excited for the group we have, which is one that we've been trying to get together on one show. Has this group ever been together on a single show? I don't think so. Which seems amazing, but you know, Kate had to move across the country.
Stopped me.
So welcome everybody. Thanks for coming on. How is everyone? Yeah, I guess I should go around. And how did I don't even remember how I used to start the show. I used to have it on autopilot.
You would read like a thing about how you
I think you would
respect all of us.
Yeah, then there was like a haiku you used to say that was about beer that you would write off the top of your head.
Uh-huh.
That's true. Every time a new one.
Yeah, like you had it. You memorized it because you.
I was so well prepared.
Remember a little bit of a TikTok dance that you would perform, even though it was on the show, and we were like, "Chris, no one's gonna see this." And we were like,
I remember you were flossing way before whatever that game was.
Yeah, exactly.
No one saw it, but you invented the floss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to floss. The Dougie floss, other things that I've heard.
All these are very topical.
Yeah.
And still relevant.
Yeah, a lot of it is.
Just like this show.
Exactly. Topical and relevant.
Anyway, it's hard when you're not in the same room. That joke.
It is. It just sounds cruel. Thank you. But anyway, the Insiders Roundtable is kind of a glimpse into the beer world from people who are living the beer world, whether it be through whether it be retailers, people who sell the beer, people who market the beer, people who make the beer, people who educate people about beer, all sorts of stuff, getting people together and having a virtual round table. I don't think it's ever been an actual round table. Even when we were live, it was kind of a weird oblong oval shape, and just talking about stuff. So that is what we're going to do. Next time, perhaps I'll have my little spiel memorized, or at least I'll be better at reading it. But I am super excited to be back, but especially with this crew. This could go, I don't know. I think the derailment counter I should start it now, because this could go off the rails pretty fast.
Start it now, I guess.
So we still have to introduce people in order of seniority, that being how many times they've been on the show. The reigning and I think forever king, Mr. Edmar. What up, dude? Your hair's looking lovely.
Thank you, Chris. I vowed not to cut my hair until Trump is no longer our president.
When did you vow that? Like a month ago?
Right now. You know what?
4 years ago.
I think I decided I would cut my hair after the election.
Got it. Yeah. But now, here's the thing. If Trump wins, you can probably never cut your hair again for the rest of your life, because he won't run for election. He'll never lose an election again.
What a loophole.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
You done messed up, Edmar.
What if
Yeah.
one of his kids?
Totally-
What if one of his kids loses?
That's
Yeah,
true.
I mean, the
You
odds
just said
are
Trump.
Could happen.
it's quite possible the next show after we recover from another election,
Mhm.
should he win, we might not have another show till next November or October, and by then my hair will look so great it'll be going down to my ass.
But the good thing is, I'll have just put this show up by then. If we're keeping with traditions,
You're gonna have to shave Ed's head digitally, like a deep fake shaved Ed head, if this comes out after Tuesday.
I've got one of those already.
Yeah.
I have one already.
what are you wearing right now? That is not your standard black attire, dude.
Chris, it's
But
very
you're-
observant. Very observant of you, Chris. I used to wear black on the outside because black is how I feel on the inside.
Oh,
But-
okay.
But recently, I've discovered the power of colors, all the colors, and somehow I hooked up with my buddy James Ewart, who made some tie-dyes for us over at the brewery over the summer, and I was blown away by the tie-dyes. It just kind of freaked me out. And then we started talking. We started making more tie-dyes and more tie-dyes. I'm like, why don't we just make a tie-dye apparel company? So we're starting a company called Forever Friends.
Mm.
Hmm.
And
That's
it's
cute.
all about sharing the colors, Chris.
Hmm.
So this is one of the early shirts I purchased and I got from Jim back in the 60s.
So you're shilling something. That's why you're wearing it. You could have just said that.
I wear, as Mike might attest,
Uh,
tie-dyes almost every day.
I've seen some pretty impressive, full head to toe tie dye outfits that I didn't even
Oh.
think were possible or legal. So it's been full jumpsuits.
I saw
So
Ed in a full jumpsuit. He showed up. I hadn't seen him in months at the beer temple, head to toe, tie dye, and it was a lot to take in.
Well, I saw him wearing jeans the other day, and it freaked me out because of how head to toe tie dye he's been. I think his other tie dye must have been at the jewelers or something.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
I
the bejewelers.
Yeah,
I gotta say to you guys that you don't have to wear tie-dye on the outside all the time. You could wear tie-dyed long underpants or tie-dyed underwear. You could wear tie-dye on the inside.
That's right. Just
Okay.
so you know, you've got a little freak out going.
still.
The colors.
Groovy. Cool, man. Well, thanks for being on the inaugural show. It's going to be awesome. We've all been planning this for a while, so it's going to be cool to have you right through to the end. Anyway, the next guest is Mr. Mike Shalal. What's up, dude? The voted #1 guest of all time.
That's right. After 1 year, and it will never revote.
No, after 100 episodes.
Right, which was
2 years.
2 years. So
And
perfect.
the show's been on for 4.5. We have yet. Well, we're over 200 now. We did 200 in the quarantine. It was like a sad, really depressing show.
Wait, you did 200 shows by yourself during quarantine that you haven't released?
Yes.
That's
and
incredible.
I'll get this one out right after I get all of this
That's the true Insiders Roundtable.
out. I've
So
been
it's
doing
not
one.
like it never gets released.
Yeah.
All of us, yeah.
They'll be released posthumously.
Oh, dark.
And then I'll win all the Webbies. I'll win all the awards. I'll be highly acclaimed.
Yeah.
But I'll be buried in a beggar's grave, in a mass grave.
Like all the greats.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, one can hope. But what's up with you, man?
Oh, not much.
A lot of decorating, I see.
Decorating. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
This is the second bedroom. So this is where there's a lot of posters in boxes and stuff.
Nice.
This is a Wilco poster.
That's cool.
Yeah,
It's actually a really cool poster.
Yeah, this was a concert I went to with my dad in Brooklyn. Pretty cool.
Ooh. Do you have
Doug, everyone loves Doug. Do I have a lot of what?
Do you have a lot of music posters, stuff like that?
I do have a lot of music posters. I went through a phase of collecting posters when I would go to shows.
All right.
Seemed to make more sense than T-shirts.
What are some of your do you have any cool blacklight music posters or anything?
Oh yeah, I do actually.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Is this a video or is this a podcast? What is this?
This will be both. I guess I should probably.
You won't get the effect because it's velour.
Okay, so I'll describe it. Everybody. Oh,
it's a band that plays Round and Round, I believe.
Yeah, that's a rat.
Where could you have rat
blacklight? Mm-hmm.
It's pretty incredible, to be honest. Maybe the nicest gift I've ever received.
Yeah, it's a blacklight rat poster, and there's a picture of like a
metal rat.
A metal rat, but it's like a Terminator rat. It looks like
it's
like a cybernetic rat.
It's like they got cut out of Tron.
Wow,
exactly.
Only with good taste could have given you that.
That's right.
That's right.
This one used to hang in the wall on the wall in my old office until we weren't allowed to put push pins in the wall anymore, and then it came down. For some reason, I haven't put it back up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what else has been new with you, man? It's been a while since we've chatted on the record.
Just keep making saisons and trying to convince people that they like them, which has been an interesting go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good, to be honest, but
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is was
brewing. Yeah.
Is was brewing. Very, very cool. Well, thanks also for coming on. Next we have Doug Valicki, the beer cruncher. I think, Doug, this is the first time have I ever seen you with a hat on? I'm not sure, but
I wear a hat all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, he wears a hat on. Yeah. I see it all the time on his TikTok.
Oh, that's what it is. I'm not cool enough. I'm still on MySpace.
I don't always wear a snow hat, but still dialing in the heat at my new place.
Oh, that's right. Man, everybody's moved.
Yeah.
Mike, you just moved.
Mm-hmm.
Kate, you're moving. Doug, you moved. Wow. What's new with you then, other than moving?
Work's crazy. I deal with finance and HR, so those are kind of like two always changing topics, literally every day these days. So it's been very busy. We just announced our brew pub that we're going to close it for 4 months and hope to reopen in March. So that was a big deal with a lot of details to figure out around it. A lot of employees, of course, affected by it. So stressful week there that we'll continue to evaluate. But like right now, I mean, we couldn't do indoor dining anyway, and we don't even know when it will be back. But we have both a restaurant which follows one set of rules, and then we have a tap room which follows more of the bar rules, which have both been changing at different times. So it's just been always one thing getting dialed up or scaled back, up and down. So
round and round, man.
As devastated as we are, it is at least nice to know where we stand, even though it's bad news with the brew pub. And it felt like we pretty much didn't have a choice at this point to do what we did today. So that's been tough, but tons of positives have come throughout this experience. A lot of people stepping up, and just myself personally, just been trying to find as many like positives and things I enjoy, and like doubling or tripling down on them, trying to stay as busy as I can, over committing to too many things just to keep myself occupied and busy with just like personal projects, and moving being one of them. But did a fundraiser a few months back, and just have been spending more time doing what I love, which is like whenever I have some free time, like taking pictures, putting out beer content on Instagram. That. So I've been doing a lot of that just to kind of keep my mind occupied and put out some positive, fun vibes, despite all the crappiness that's going on as well.
Well, thank you for being on. Thank you as well.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. And last but not least, the fifth member of the Triumvirate, which I don't think I've ever publicly said that word before, but Ms. Kate Tronica, Kate Branken. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm doing good. I'm doing all right. Changes hour by hour, minute by minute, stable-ish. It's
right.
I'm doing fine.
What what are you up to?
My brother just got married, so I was able to see family for a little bit because I've been, in New York and they're in Chicago. So it was pretty nice to recently have driven to the Midwest for a small family get together, which was really nice. Otherwise, we're also getting ready to move back, and just kind of a lot of spending outdoor, time with friends and trying to kind of take stuff minute by minute, not watch the news too much.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's about it.
Yeah, unplugging. I've been doing that a lot too. I've been trying to get off social media. I've made it like a conscious choice to just take to not do all that, and it's been pretty positive for me, to tell you the truth.
I have not been able to achieve that. I'm on,
oh really?
I feel like I'm constantly just on. I feel like anytime Doug uploads a TikTok, I'm like the first one to see it on Instagram or anything.
First,
right there. Yeah.
No, the key for me was turning off notifications, and then it helped a lot. It helped.
I don't get any notifications except for text. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
I also deleted everything except Instagram on my phone, and then I forgot my Facebook password and got logged out of Facebook somehow. Now I can't even get onto it. So, some things work out.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Real passive.
So let's get right into it, guys. Some things have to stay the same. Beers that we've been drinking lately, or looking forward to drink. It's been so long. I have a few. So right now, I'm drinking a Whippoorwill from Fonta Flora. I'll hold it up to the camera for the video that we'll put up. Wit beer with Earl Grey tea. Really awesome beer. I'm drinking it out of my favorite beer glass, which is one of your awesome glasses, Edmar. Just super cool.
The Somm Craft glass, yeah.
Mm-hmm, the Somm Craft glass. And was really cool was in Asheville, and just got away with the family. Another thing we did to try to disconnect. We're all remote. Well, everyone but me is remote. So the kids were logging into school. We got a little house off of a farm for a week, and it was cool. The kids did their classes, and then went and fed horses in between classes, which was kind of cool for them. So. But I visited Fonta Flora while I was out there because, I can't be anywhere without having some sort of scratch-like experience, or I'll start to slowly wither and raisin and just die. So I went there and had some foraged beers, and that's how I stay eternal.
What's it like there? Is it kind of like a tap room?
Wait, hold on. I know that's a great question, but is this Tuck Everlasting? How you stay eternal?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like a vampire, except I need foraged craft beer.
Jeez, you are good.
Vampire. I didn't know how you achieved that status.
You thought I just liked Scratch and talked about it for that reason?
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's literally how I live.
Any opportunity to refer to them through any experience you have.
No, not at all, Ed. A lot of people think that. No, it's my lifeblood, literally. Foraged beers.
So you really set yourself up for survival and success.
Yeah, no, it came through. I mean, I was on the brink. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't doing too well until I discovered Scratch. Because
what were you doing before that?
Well, I wasn't doing well. That's what my whole point. I wasn't doing well.
Just sum your whole life up until then.
Yeah,
I would say it's true. It's a marker for Chris.
Look at it since then. Just so
I'm actually 10,000 years old, and all beer had foraged ingredients back then. But then we went through a phase.
You know what?
I call it a phase. But
this explains the grumpiness a lot.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
you've been really grumpy.
Yeah.
I'm an old man. I'm a really
Yeah.
old man.
And extracts and purees foraged from wherever don't count
Right.
for your
Yeah.
lifeblood. Yeah.
Jelly donut farms, jelly donut orchards, they don't count, even if you pick it right from your, little, that
Jelly
stuff
donut
doesn't do
trees.
it. The jelly donut tree.
What about coconut groves?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a funny thing about coconuts is you cannot domesticate a coconut tree. It won't grow. You have to forage it. So really any kind
You
of,
sound like you know a lot about what will and will not domesticate.
well, do you know what, you know things about stuff that keeps you alive. So I need to know.
I don't know if I
how
do, to be
I'm
honest.
gonna live. But I want to get back to what Kate said because I don't remember what it
Yeah.
was. What did you,
Sorry.
what did you say, Kate?
I don't know. I was just asking what the Fonta Flora tap room is like.
What's it
I've
like?
never been there.
Much
Let's
better
see
question
then.
than mine.
What's the
It's
vibe
good.
there that keeps you alive?
It's good. It's a lot like I forget the name of that, like the Well of Life. No, it's cool. They have an old, the original tap room and brew pub is in this place I think called Morgantown, which has this like college town vibe. Although I don't think it is a college town. But then they moved and put up a friggin' like barn, and now they're in a barn. And there's all these old like stone dairy things, like buildings next to it, and it's cool. They've got a big outdoor area and trails and stuff like that. A lot of agriculture in that area, which is really kind of their focus is more agriculture than, they do some foraging, obviously, or I wouldn't have gone there. But yeah, it was cool. Really, really enjoyable beers, and they had some stuff which unlike similar to Scratch for me, like when I first had Scratch, I would look at some of the ingredients and like, this beer is not going to be good. But they did an IPA.
Like what ingredient would that be?
Right. So like they did an IPA
So hops.
that had it had hops, but it had like coconut and lime basil in it.
Oh, I had their basil
And it was
IPA recently.
and it was double dry hopped or something. You're talking about Fonta Floras, right?
No,
Or Scratches?
me? I'm talking about
Yeah.
Scratch.
No. I'm talking about Fonta Flora right now.
Okay.
They have like I thought it was lime and basil, but it's lime basil, I think, is a type of basil,
Mhm.
and coconut. And it's a double dry hopped IPA, although it's clear. So I think it's purely marketing, so they can just
Pliny's clear.
actually sell it. But is that they don't market it as double dry hopped, do they?
That doesn't necessarily.
No, but it is.
Yeah.
Right, but when you see double dry hopped on a label, I think
Mike and
that
I
definitely
Yeah.
connotates, a certain thing. I would think. You don't think so, Doug? I saw that turn in my head.
I posted this exact question on Twitter over the summer and got one of the longest threads I think I've ever gotten from a question. And it was very split. And it had all these people from the West Coast, like even like brewers from Firestone were chiming in, and some people supporting it, some people not. But it was just an interesting.
Yeah. Brewers, I don't think I would go with, because that's going to be like, well, technically every beer is triple hopped, because
Hey.
that's not, but that's not the heart of the question. I think when you see double dry hopped or DDH on a menu or a can, what are you expecting to get? If you then had to close your eyes after you order it and then it shows up in a glass, what do you think that's going to look like? Which, if I remember correctly, is kind of what you were getting at, Doug, a little bit maybe. Like, what do you expect?
I think I was getting at the time a beer we just released, which was a IPA that we wanted to get as aggressive with hops as we would, let's say, a New England IPA. But as a result of that, you have to kind of charge like a price of a New England IPA. And I was kind of like hoping enough people would say that, yeah, you could say DDH West Coast style IPA as just a signature of like, hey, we went crazy on the hops on this thing. but that the West Coast would be enough of a signal the other way that, hey, this is clear. So I know it's not one-to-one with what you're saying, but that was I think how it came up.
Okay. Well,
so yeah, it is marketing. It's a way of saying, kind of, it's like a way of saying, hey, this was expensive. This is why it's $3 more than our $9.99
right
6-packs or something like that.
We're going. It's taking a while. So that was the beer I drank. What beers have other people drank?
Good thing you're eternal, so we can continue this.
I've got all day. I mean, trust me, I've got all the time in the world.
I don't think I'll get through this episode before we finish talking about the beers we're making or drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make mine really quick. I'm drinking one of our beers like I usually do because I just take everything from the brewery because it's convenient. And I'm drinking the People Power, which happens to be a New England style IPA. But this is a beer that was made in like a kind of giant nationwide collaborative brew called by Threes Brewing. And any brewery could participate. And essentially it was a beer to celebrate, the power of the people and then imploring people to vote or get involved in a political process. And the proceeds of the beer, everyone who makes the beer will donate some of their funds to the ACLU's People Power Fund. So it's I'm glad we were able to release this beer a couple weeks ago and kind of remind people to get involved and engaged. And it's a good mouthfeel, creamy mouthfeel. It's double dry hop, but not marketed as such. It's made with Mosaic, Amarillo, Belmont, Citra hops.
Very cool.
Good. Yeah, so it's fun.
Cool.
But the really cool thing that no one will know is that the imagery we're using is actually images from a French artist collective called Atelier Populaire. And these images were put up all over the streets of Paris during the May 1968 rebellion against the President Gaulle. And it was part of the kind of like global rebellion against kind of authoritarian regimes or bad actors all over the world. So it was nice to kind of bring this tradition of like artwork that was found on the streets to the label as well.
That's very cool. Very, very, very you, Ed. Very cool. Who's next?
Mike.
Perfect. I'm drinking a Wilby, which is like our house saison. It's the third batch of it we've done. Try to improve on it a little bit each time. We tweak the water profile on this one. Last time we changed like the open top fermentation, so the esters got real juiced up, and then this one we kind of changed when we would bung it or when we would stop doing the open top fermentation to see how that would affect it.
That's cool.
So, yeah, but
how many times do you dry hop it? Yeah, exactly. You were getting to what I was asking.
It's continuously dry hop. Since it's open top fermentation, we take the original like shaking football game that Dogfish Head used, and we just keep dropping hops into it.
So you guys work in shifts then?
No, yeah.
To keep adding it on.
Ed can tell you I'm there fully decked out in my tie-dye PPE every day. Every night.
That's not true. You don't wear enough tie-dye, and I'm going to make sure.
That's not true.
If I could tie-dye rubber gloves, man, I would.
I forgot this is a visual medium now.
Mike,
tie-dye.
Yeah, Mike works a lot. Mike works very hard. He's really dedicated to make sure that his brewery kicks ass. It's really beautiful to.
No,
it's great that we could host you for so long. I don't even know how long it's been, but
I think 15, 20 years, I think.
Yeah, it's like a while. It's hard to believe. I mean, this pandemic stretches every day into 5
eons. I mean, it's I think a second for Chris, but it's a long time for us.
However, I got to say, Mike, that Forest and Maine collab we did is going to give you a run for your money.
Yeah.
What? You did a Forest and Maine? Oh, that's right. That thing's ready?
Forest and Mars. Yeah, it's going to come out. It's pretty fucking sick.
Yeah, it's pretty
nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice. Dig it. I really like their beers. I'm excited about that.
They forage their yeast, so
yeah. There you go.
That's why I like them.
They're the sweetest guys. They are the best. I love them.
They're really nice.
Awesome. Who wants to go next, Doug or Kate?
I'll go next. I'm drinking a Off Color Waddle, their Oktoberfest. But two beers I'm really excited about are coincidentally from people on the show. But the Dark Jungle Boogie, I've been very hyped on.
Nights?
Yeah, I've been very hyped on the black IPAs lately, and Jungle Boogie is one of my favorite beers. So when I saw you were re-releasing Boogie Nights, that's on my list. And then the other one was one of my favorite beers, favorite regulars in the city is Pipeworks' Lizard King, and I saw that they're doing a cryo mosaic version, which I don't know how subtle or big the difference will be, but I'm excited to find out either way, because Lizard King's one of my favorite regulars, so they did just kind of a new twist on it. So I like the kind of educational element, so you can actually taste a beer you're used to having, but with a different format that these hops can be acquired in, and it's supposed to bring out more flavors. It's like more efficient use of the hops. So excited to pick up and try that one. So.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been cool doing those.
I'd also like to give a shout out to a surprisingly good beer, a Pipeworks beer, surprisingly good for me, not surprisingly good overall. I'm sure
It wasn't
never
good
in doubt.
overall.
Exactly. That's what that. Thank you for clarifying what I meant, Mike.
We're here for.
What's the apple pie beer? What was that called? Like
the prize-winning pie beer.
Prize-winning pie beer. It was it's an apple pie beer, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like a malty, bready malt base to it, and apple juice, then a like low amount of lactose, cinnamon, but it's in like a little bit of salt also to kind of give you that thing. We've been making kind of a couple of those, getting back into more conceptual beers, and lately I think they've been the goal is to make them drinkable.
Yes, that's why I liked it, and that's why I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a dessert beer, and it's not. It's pretty dry, and it does have. You said malty, but for those who are listening or watching, don't think more like English style malty, bittery. Biscuity, like a bitter would be, not like like a brown ale or something like that. It was good.
That was it was a recipe that was kind of like morphine, and originally it started out as a sour, and then we kind of kicked it back after thinking like, hey, maybe that would just add an element that's not needed, and basically just kind of went over it a couple times. We've really been doing a lot of group weighing in on all recipes, which is cool because we're getting everyone to impart. It's all done over Zoom, so we'll sit down, everyone will pitch recipes, and then kind of talk about them for a couple different sessions now. And so it's cool. I mean, the original, I don't even know who the original idea came from, but then it gets worked on, and then Andy in our cellar has been doing a lot of the spice additions, and he's been doing a really good job with that too.
That's awesome. I'm very torn. Well, about what to talk about next. I do want to say, when is your collab with Sarah Lee coming out, or is it going to be Pillsbury frozen pie crusts?
We got Manny's Deli coming first, so get ready for that. I'm
for real
excited about that. Heck yeah, I'm very excited. It started off with a tweet, and they were kind of just like, "Who wants to collaborate?" And
did they really say that?
Yeah, on anything.
Literally anything.
Yeah, and I think it was
clothing.
Yeah, and then Mike from Porch Drinking was like, "Oh, Pipeworks has made a pastrami on rye beer," and then I was just happened to be on my phone because that's all I'm doing now is on Twitter, and I just was like, "Yeah, let's do it," and it's just it's actually happening. And
you're making pastrami on rye again?
With Manny's Deli spices.
Nice.
I'm really excited.
I think that's kind of a cool. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it'll be a lower ABV 4-packs. We'll see.
That's awesome. That was one of the first like 20 beers Pipeworks ever made too.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. It's been forever, but
It's like an OG homebrew beer, right? Of Garrett's or something. Yeah. All right. So then I was torn because Ed has to leave soon. And I was going to. Can you guys hear me? Okay. By the way, I'm hearing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ed has to leave. So do we talk about what's been working and what's not working, which is a great segue that Kate was giving before, or do we want to talk about trends in beer? And I think one of the reasons we said we should get on the show was so we could have a big argument and a fight about collaborations and how they're so awesome and how I love them. What do you want to do, Ed? You call the shot.
You know, I actually think it's a pretty good idea to talk about what's happening. 8 months through to this, or 7 or 8 months through to this pandemic, and how breweries pivoted and shifted and try to deal with what's been happening. I mean, obviously it's different all over the nation, but I think it might be good to talk about how the city differs from the suburbs, and like it may relate to politics, unfortunately, which I know that maybe it's not a good thing to talk about, but I always do, right? And maybe we could start there.
I hadn't noticed, really.
We could talk about just what Doug was mentioning. Like Doug and Revolution made a decision today, or maybe yesterday, that look, this latest decision by the governor to shut down restaurants and bars to the public is pretty intense. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the Illinois Craft Brewers Guild email recently, but reading in between the lines, it seems like the majority or many breweries in Illinois are completely freaking out and want to challenge the governor's decision to shut down any indoor drinking and dining. And it's pretty intense that people feel that way when we're at the peak, the highest amount of infection rate in the entire country throughout this whole pandemic. I mean, back in March, we shut down, kind of freaking out, completely collapsed. Our businesses were collapsing. I believe at that time in this late spring, early summer, we were talking about a large, like 30, 40, 50% of the industry was going to collapse, right? Obviously, a bunch of things changed. The weather changed. There was some economic relief with PPP, the IDL loans. We talked about that briefly, I think. So anyways, obviously, everyone went through that funding. Everyone was able to, who could do outdoor dining and drinking if they wanted to, or if they wanted to open up like you did, Chris, and Revolution's Brew Pub did. People opened up and they were able to, keep people employed, pay some bills, give a sense of normalcy in this kind of bizarro, once in a lifetime, once in a century plague that we're currently dealing with. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that now we're on the verge of shutting down again. In fact, tomorrow morning, we're shutting down in Chicago as well.
I mean, really, for bars, in 6 minutes.
Yeah. So it's pretty much over in terms of like being able to go into a bar. So we could talk about whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. But I think what I'd like to just maybe talk about is like, well, what are the types of policies we'd like to see our government enact? How would we like to be treated as a segment of the economy? Because a lot of people feel that it's unfair that bars and restaurants were shut down, but not grocery stores, or not just purely essential businesses. A lot of people feel that the only businesses that probably did a really good job with their safety and health concerns for their guests and their staff was the hospitality industry, because we are the front line in terms of dealing with the public. So I would like to throw that out to you guys if you have any ideas. I obviously have a couple ideas I could bring up in a little bit, but I'm wondering if anyone has any thoughts about that.
Does anyone want to go? I mean, I certainly have plenty of thoughts on it. But
go ahead, Chris.
I don't want to dominate. I think that if we're talking politically, I think they're not using a scalpel. I think they're using a machete, and I think they know they are. I think they're aware of that, and they're like, rather than put all these studies together, lop this off and it'll hopefully do that. I'm with you in a way. I think a lot of businesses in the first go round that aren't going to get shut down this time were the ones that I didn't understand. Like I didn't understand like a florist couldn't have been open. When you're going to have one person in at a time and it's not a problem and you guys can stay distance and stuff like that. I thought there were a lot of non-essential businesses that were still completely safe to operate. So I think they've learned in that sense. I do think that as much as we all probably don't like to hear it, there are, as much as the hospitality sector and maybe even our peers within the hospitality sector are acting a certain way, there's other places that aren't. And there are certain neighborhoods in every city for sure that just are there. Bars are there for different reasons, and some of them are there to pack people in and have people kind of get up close to one another and drink and lower inhibitions and stuff like that. And I don't doubt that could be a problem. And I don't think it's possible to regulate that. And I don't think it's possible to police it. So I don't really have a good answer. I don't think it's perfect, but I don't know what else to do necessarily. Having your mask off is a requirement for eating and drinking. And you can say you have to have your mask off literally. I mean, I think the latest rule technically says in Chicago that you have to have your mask on, you lower your mask, take a drink, and put your mask back up over your face, That is not realistic. That is not realistic. And even if somebody says it is realistic, I do it, it's not realistic to expect everyone is going to do it. And I think that's what these regulators are dealing with. Like, what is realistically going to be followed by 80% of the people? 20% are just not going to do it no matter what. So I don't have a good answer, but I guess I think that they're legitimately trying. I don't know what the science says about are people getting COVID from restaurants, or bars and stuff like that. But I do know that like all the scientists that I see say, or all the stuff that I read says that bars and restaurants are like on the very highest end of risky activities, indoor specifically. Yeah. So like, what do you do? I mean, Ed, you took forever to open up the indoor portions of your businesses, obviously for a reason. I mean, people are so scared of doing it. I mean, us here at the Beer Temple, we've been very fortunate. We're also so like spread out, and we're like, we just don't do that. The bar just doesn't do that much business right now. So it's like very low risk. Yeah. I mean, it's very low reward too. Sometimes I wonder like, well, if we were just the bar, we'd be closed, man. Like it's not worth it. But we already have someone right there for the bottle shop who can run over and pour you a beer. And there'll be times when it's one person sitting by himself in the bar, and that's how it is. But
the problem is, of course, is that there wasn't a relief fund to fund local governments or cities or states to provide them the funds to do something with more precision or with a scalpel,
Right.
But like the thing is that someone or organizations should have advised these governments to go, look, when we get to a place where we have to shut down, maybe there's a possibility for you to help mitigate our losses through grants or loans that allow us to get through the period in which we're closed. Very simple things could have been done. I mean, the federal government, state governments pay farmers not to grow stuff, right? There are many examples how certain industries are targeted with some funding to help sustain them because of the value they provide to their society or the economy. So we have, thousands and thousands of restaurants and bars with hundreds of millions of dollars of investment to open them and keep them and operating and employing, 800,000 hospitality workers in Illinois. Maybe when they made these decisions to pinpoint our industry, they should have said, look, those people who are being shut down, you can apply for some grants or get some low interest loans to help you weather the next few months before you can open up to the public on outdoor seating or something. So like those are the types of things, those are the types of answers and policies which would then also make it a softer blow for all these businesses whose primary reason they're freaking out is because when they're closed, they may not survive and many people are going to be unemployed. I mean, as Revolution stated, and maybe Doug, you could speak to this, but like you guys said, like, look, we're going to make sure that we maintain everyone's health insurance. We're going to make sure that we weather this. You've budgeted. I'm sure you're losing your mind, Doug, but you've been trying to figure out a way to keep things going, paying your bills, mitigating your losses, and hoping that you're making it up through more sales, through retail and pickup. So all I'm saying is that this could have been averted if they would have merely managed to let everyone know, like, look, there is some relief. And apparently there are some state funds. There's a second round of fundings and grants you could apply for now. But yeah, I mean, really, that's the thing that's really gotten me angry about it, because we're not opening up. We weren't going to open up Mars for indoor dining or drinking anyways. We had decided not to do that anyways. We're just going to pivot back to our to go and pick up and delivery business as a way to help provide delicious food and our beers and our other beverages to our customers. But think about the classic, incredibly important bars like the Rainbow Club or the Skylark, or what are they doing for 7 months, man?
Right.
It is just incredible. And anyways, this is what's really upsetting me. And this whole week has been a very tense, stressful, freaky time, nerve-wracking time for so many people.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I agree.
So we're all just going to try to squeak by. We're all just going to try to just hang on to that cliff, with a fingernail while we go through this. Because the last time they did this, Chris, what was it? We were shut for 3 months. You remember?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are we going to do? I don't know. Everything will be decided next week or whatever, or the next month, when we get some new leadership that provides guidance for the rest of our citizens to perhaps participate in the mitigation efforts of reducing the impact of this pandemic on everybody. That's one hope we have. And then possibly they'll pass another stimulus bill that we could apply for in a couple of months that will rescue us from being further in debt. I mean, the reality is we all went in debt to stay open already. Right?
That's what the stimulus did. It was a loan. Right.
You know what I mean? It's like people don't realize, like, we're only still open because we borrowed all this money and kept people working because we love our people and want to take care of them. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's the focus for me. Like, how do we tell people? So, we have a number of initiatives that we've worked on through partnerships with our nonprofit and stuff, but not everyone has that opportunity to employ people, to feed people. It's not everyone has that opportunity. So I actually just decided this week, it's like, you know what? I'm going to figure out a way to raise a shit ton of money and make sure that we try to help rescue a couple dozen restaurants in Chicago. We're going to expand our community kitchen thing. And I'm going to beg, borrow, and steal as much money as I can to pay people to make food, to feed people who have lost their job or people who already have food insecurity, and just provide free meals to people in various neighborhoods in the city. Because that's the only thing I know I have agency that I could work on without having to beg the government or think about the government being involved. And I guess in general, like Doug and Revolution, if it wasn't for you, Chris, bringing us together, I wouldn't have a relationship with Doug, where Doug has helped us over and over and over, helped our brewery stay in business, right? Or Pipeworks, or Mike. Mike came in when we had to transition our brewery and helped us stay afloat and build our brewery. Like, we can only do this stuff together. And it goes back to the kind of the beauty and the reason why we got into craft beer is this community, and it's so good to see that we still have those bonds, we still have those relationships where we're trying to work together. But it's sad that the political situation has eviscerated this. We could have had sustained discussions about this and passed these memes on to put pressure on our government officials to like when you are going to shut us down again, how are you going to give us a lifeline, guys?
And maybe more than 48 hours would be helpful as well.
I was going to say like communication. I feel like a lot of the frustration that I've heard from everyone across the board and all different parts of the industry is just the communication has been so flippant and just
flippant's a good way to put it.
There's no way to anticipate it as well as you should be able to. Also, just what the actual rules are. I know businesses are afraid of breaking the rules and being fined or whatever the ramifications might be, or getting someone sick, God forbid. So, I mean, it's just, the communication and the direction. It's not even just the actual shutdowns as it is. I mean, it is that, but then also on top of that, there's another layer of just like vague communication. And that's something that doesn't require federal government. That's something that doesn't require additional stimulus. That's something just requires like empathetic communication, which I don't think that we've been seeing from local leadership as much as I would have hoped for in a situation like this, especially the second go around, when there's a little bit more understanding of what this is and what needs to happen, what the thresholds are. Like our tents, people are putting up tents and it's like, okay, well, do they know how much ventilation to have in the tents? How do you clean those things? It's just like, I feel like every time it's just like there's like a fire and you try to put out the fire by like putting more sticks on it. And you're like, oh, maybe this will work.
I mean, I have to say that right away, the most basic things you could do.
Uh-oh.
Up, Ed froze. You're frozen there,
Ed?
Ed might be frozen. Maybe that's what happens at 9. He just is. Oh, are you back, Ed? You froze.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't.
So the most basic things you could do, and then you froze.
Oh yeah, I mean the most basic things we were told to do was like cover your mouth, wash your hands, don't touch your face. It took 7 months, but most people know that by now, and it actually has been helpful. But who knows what the hell's going on right now? I mean, whatever, 2 miles from me, 1 out of 15 people are positive in this neighborhood. Like, what? How the hell did that happen? It's insane. So, anyway.
I think people's guards are coming down, and the weather's getting colder. People have been predicting that this was going to happen at this time of year for months.
Yeah.
But that just goes to what you were saying, Kate, about this flippant nature. They've been talking about a spike since the first shutdown. Was we got to eradicate this in the summer, so when the fall spike comes, and still it was just like, yeah, you guys got to close in 2 days or something like that. So that, I think you do have a good point there, that it's, I think, targeted relief also, to kind of switch gears a little bit, would be nice. Like, the last PPP was not very good for hospitality.
No.
We need a hospitality focused bill that really helps those, because I think, like you were saying with subsidies, I'm sure those were arranged for and lobbied for over probably decades, and we don't have that time here. But there is a strong cultural connection to a lot of these places that really need help. It's not just hospitality, it's also, the arts. All that stuff is just hanging, like you said, by a fingernail. And it's what makes cities in particular, but really communities, let's just say, special. I mean, I use the example or the stereotype of like, when Guthrie's closes down in Chicago, an institution, I'd say, it's not like another Guthrie's is going to take its place, and even if it does, it's not going to be that for another 10 years or 15 years, it has to mature. And more than likely, it's going to be a dentist's office is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even before COVID, when, oh my gosh.
Quenchers.
Exactly. Quenchers closed.
Is literally a dentist's office.
It's a pediatrician, right?
It's like, I think
it's like pediadental, like.
Exactly. Because those are the easiest things to just like get in, get funding for, get licensing. It's like nail salon, spa, dentist office.
But
like those are the things. Boom, boom, boom.
But instead, we have like, a mayor here who's been great at admonishing the citizens to do the right thing, and she closed down, whatever.
Yeah.
Good or bad. But the reality is, why don't you focus on your own employees first, Mayor? Can you make sure that the city workers wear a goddamn mask?
Like she went after the cops. I'll say that.
Good. Well, great. Well, I didn't know that.
Because the union headquarters was so riddled with COVID, they had to shut it down.
Yeah.
So she called them out and said that they were going to do that.
Good.
So she did
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. I was I've been pissed about that the whole summer. Anyways, but yeah, I think that's some of the stuff, but obviously the other things are, it's going to be us, Chris, like, all of us here sitting and virtually hanging out together. These networks are what's going to help us get through it, obviously. And that's what's happening all over the place. I hope every brewery, every bar, every restaurant out there has a community that's going to try to help them get through this next phase.
Well, let's see if we can do something. This is a good a bit of a segue, Ed, and I know you have to leave soon, so leave whenever you have to, but why don't we take this opportunity? Doug, you had mentioned that maybe going over like what has worked, what hasn't worked would be useful. And hey, I know a lot of industry people listen to this podcast or listen to this podcast. Maybe we can take some collective knowledge here. Yeah. And I'd love to get it from people who are listening too. You can email us at insiders@craftbeertemple.com and let us know what you think, and I will communicate it out when I post this in the year 3030. And so Doug, I mean, why don't you start? What has worked for you guys?
I'm gonna tie the kind of first point I wanted to make. I want to tie this back to some of what Ed's original questions were, some of what you was referencing me, but like this goes perfect with this. One misconception that I've heard that I don't think a lot of people are aware of is like when they put the capacity restrictions on restaurants, like 25 people, and then maybe it got up to 50 depending on the type of space. Those weren't really, at least for us, and I think I've talked to many people who were in the same situations, those capacity restrictions weren't the problem. The problem was that there weren't enough people that felt comfortable coming out. Like we would run into those constraints maybe for like an hour on a Friday or Saturday night, but that would make like a 15-minute wait. But otherwise, it wasn't the capacity. There wasn't enough people coming out, which leads to what me agreeing with Ed's point of like they have to come up with some kind of way to help support these businesses. The PPP was designed by people who thought we were going to be back open at Easter, so it was so temporary. And then at the very end, they tried to extend it, but a lot of people had already used their funds and would have been able to stretch them out much longer had they known they didn't have to use them up in the first 8 weeks. Like we were spending ours like crazy because we were told you have 8 weeks to use these. And then all of a sudden with 2 weeks left, they were like, you can have it through the rest of the year. And we were like, well, we would have been more conservative if we'd known we had all year to utilize these.
Right.
That was a big whiff on that one. And I don't have the answer to this. This is not my expertise, but just the simple idea of like, given the amount of people that are about to go on unemployment, isn't there a more productive way to use those funds by infusing them somehow into these businesses? Like for us, I know that doing to-go business and delivery business is not feasible. The amount we lose is just unsustainable. Like we tried it. We did it for a few months. the first few months we had the PPP loans so we could absorb it because we didn't really have to pay for labor. And then we let that spill into a few more months, and then it just got so bad it was like you can't do it. So there's got to be some kind of something that can be done, and I don't think they know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is. But
and is anybody advocating for it? Like, is there? I don't think anybody. It doesn't seem to be like there's any advocates either, because it's been so fast and happening. I'm sorry, Ed. Sorry, Doug.
That's okay. And I feel bad because, like Ed pointed out, what we're able to do by covering these poor employees' healthcare for the 4 months that we're going to be closed. But we can only do that because we happen to have started as a restaurant that grew into a large, wholesale operation. So we can dip into that and use that to absorb the, cost of paying those expenses. But like a lot of restaurants don't have that. Like none of them do. We just happen to be this restaurant that's attached to a larger brewery. So that's like a unique situation for us where we're lucky, but is not the norm. So that kind of is a good start to us. For us, what wasn't working is like running a restaurant. Like anybody right now, the most troublesome model you could have would be a brew pub, where the foundation of your brewery is being a restaurant. That's of course the most that's what we started as, but now it's not the core of our business, let's say. So we also do 100 weddings a year, most of which are at that brew pub. So like that's been something that's been a major effect on us and affected the employees who normally plan and run those weddings, in addition to having a restaurant. And then of course our tap room. So like those are our big three things that are just pretty much gone right now. And I would say gone for hopefully the restaurant can be kind of what it had been this fall, which isn't a business that can really make money, but it can at least hover near even at the kind of capacity limits and the comfort level of customers. We'd gladly open again, if we could, to where we kind of started in the, call it September, August type of weather. But so we're leaning on the wholesale side of our business, and it's right now what is working for us is the fact that we sell a lot of our beer in the grocery store, and that's where a lot of people are doing their limited shopping right now, is in the grocery store. We luckily have we had going into this, we had 4 big packages, 12 packs or 15 packs, which for a while and still today are what people are buying. They're just shopping quicker, buying a little bit more than they would, so leaning more toward those bigger packages. They don't want to touch as many cans, so there's better kind of billboard effect of a 12 pack. I think they're moving faster for quite a few reasons combined. So that's been something that we were lucky to have in place, and is by no means making up for all of the many things that are down. I mean, we're a 40% on-premise brewery, so we are not making up that 40% of draft business and selling beer in the White Sox Stadium and all these concert venues. That's just a complete zero. We do a lot of our business through that. Now these, the fact that 12 packs are going crazy right now, our variety pack of IPAs, the League of Heroes, is up 70%, but that's just one item. It's only putting a quarter of a dent into what's kind of gone away. So it's helped. It's helped kind of inch toward a sustainable business. It's just the amount of jobs that we lose from the retail component, from the restaurant having to close for 4 months, is what's really devastating to us, for us. So, but everything that's new is selling. Innovation is huge. The whole idea that people are going back to their favorites, I think there's plenty of that. Maybe some of that is because so many people were shopping for a while at the place where they got their groceries, and that's all you can really buy at those places, is kind of brands that are a little more established or have been out there for a couple years is what you tend to see at a Jewel Mariano's, a Trader Joe's, places like that. You don't see like the brand new stuff there. So those brands got a big lift. But like when we make something new and innovative or new to us, or get real excited about something and do a good job of sharing why we're pumped about it, like people are responding, they're buying it. It's not just like everybody drinking Anti-Hero all of a sudden. Like people are into the new stuff. So we've made sure that we're kind of every month at least. It's hard for us at our size, but trying to get like a new beer out there every month, as well as new takes on existing stuff. Just as many ways we can to keep it fresh, so that we always have new fun things to communicate, because communication with customers right now goes a long way. Every social media we post we make, if it's thoughtful, if it's authentic, it's resulting in business. And you can only do that so many times, but if you do it well and you do it thoughtfully, it's more important now than it ever has been. So kind of end my rant there.
Yeah,
but that's not a rant. That was
over.
Not a rant by any means. Who wants to go next? What's working? What's not working?
I mean, we're so far on the opposite end of the spectrum there, with like the scale and the level of employment. I mean, the things that are working for us are the opposite of selling things at grocery stores. It's been being able to deliver to people's houses. I mean,
wow, right.
Like, I mean, it's not a lot of beer, but it's a lot of revenue for us. And we never had a tap room. We're a contract brand out of the kindness of Ed letting us be there. But being able to sell beer directly to people's homes has simultaneously increased our revenue incrementally, I guess, and allowed us to kind of figure out who the people that we're actually connecting with the most are. I mean, we're doing a somewhat esoteric style of beer that I knew was going to be difficult to kind of grow and to find the people for, even when times were going to be good. And we were only releasing beer for about 6 months before this all started. Like, we had just started doing more draft beer to try to expand our draft accounts. And then our beer takes, a month in the package before it's ready to serve. So by the time we packaged that beer, had nowhere to go. So we've had a tough time with that, because that's a significant amount of our volume, but that we lost for like 2 months. But being able to get to connect directly to people and go directly to people's homes has been the biggest thing for us. As far as a big part of our plan was to do every opportunity we got to do a tasting or a dinner or someplace that we could interface with people, and that was all shut down. And luckily, when we were able to have on-premise consumption and dining, we did some outdoor dinners and stuff, and they were great. We only did 2 or 3 of them, and we're back to people not really knowing what Saison is. And it was an interesting way to pivot and be we were trying to prove concept and prove there was at least some small market for what we were doing, and then hopefully start our own thing. But we had to kind of pivot to no, we got to make this sustainable now, which luckily we were able to, because it's just me. I have a business partner who has a full-time job, and we have a guy who helps out when we brew and package, who also has a full-time job. So I don't know how I would have navigated this, doing what we're doing, if we had tried to start out by being, we probably would have started out by trying to be a brewery that's mostly taproom, knowing that we were going to make a small amount of beer and that we were trying to maximize that profit margin. And thank God, it was never really an option. That was never the thing we were going to do. But if you talked to me about a year ago, how would you want to do this? I'm like, well, we should have our own tap room right now and do most of our sales on premise. And I know people who do that.
Which is what everybody would have been saying, right?
Right. And I know people who do that who have pivoted to do other things, like Middlebrow, who's turned into a grocery store, beer delivery. They're in a super interesting case, but I think they're the minority of people. You see people who kind of wanted to do what we're doing and, have been posting on Instagram recently, just outright saying the only way we're going to survive is if you come and buy beer to go from us right now. It's heartbreaking. It's people who are making good beer. Like it just dispels that, like, oh, it's all about the liquid thing. Well, and during a pandemic, it's like also like the business model can just shut you down. So,
oh my God.
I mean, we're incredibly lucky, and we're incredibly, like, it's because of this network of people we've been able to, Ed having the kindness and Chris, you carrying our beer, and we bought in a pinch. We've bought malt from Doug, and like, I don't know, and coming from Pipeworks, like it's network of people. We picked up malt from Pipeworks today because I just didn't come in, but it's like it's a crazy time. It's a tough time, and we're definitely not where we want to be, but we're more fortunate than a lot of people. So I can't really complain, to be honest.
You want to hear something like crazy? And I'm in a weird way, I'm thankful to hear these stories, because absurdly, we're going to probably the Beer Temple will end this year as its highest revenue year ever.
I remember there was like a week there where every store I was delivering to was like, this is the best week we've ever had as a business.
Yeah.
Right.
What was your, sorry, Chris, what was maybe the best month? Just trying to kind of understand it in relation to what was happening in the world. Was it maybe like April or was it March?
October will be our best month.
Oh, October, really? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. And before that, it would probably have been maybe August, or maybe that when the shutdown hit and there was that panic buy. That was weird. That was that weird edginess. People stockpiling. That was when nobody could like flour. Remember when flour wasn't, you couldn't buy flour, and like weird stuff like that. That was creepy. But yeah, the sales were up, but no, for us is some stuff that we had laid the groundwork for, a lot of times unknowingly, allowed us to pivot in certain ways that have just been good for us. The fact that I've done a lot of video stuff, and I do a lot of beer classes, and I do a lot of education, well, coupled with the idea that all these event spaces, like all these other breweries are now closed, and all the conventions aren't happening. There's a lot of companies out there who can't get in touch with the prospective clients anymore, and they're trying to find ways to do it. And they used to go to the trade show, and when they would go by the booth, they'd say, hey, we're going to be buying people rounds of beers at the bar or this bar afterwards. Here's a little flyer. They can't do that anymore, so they're trying to do it virtually now. And we're doing a lot of education virtually, beer education virtually for people, and it's been absolute chaos. I think, Ed, when you came by, you probably saw me in a pretty standard way. I think, Mike, you were probably there all the time, or most of the time, and you just don't see me because I'm in the back room staring at a friggin' monitor.
Well, like the perfect example of what you're talking about is I was dropping off beer because my dad is doing exactly what you're talking about. So I was dropping off beer for a shipment for something like that, for like a conference that he was doing. And you popped in for a second. I was like, what's up, man? He's like, you gonna be here for me? Like, no, I was doing delivery, so I got to run. And you're like, okay, well, I got to go back and do this class. And so it was like, you were doing the thing that I was dropping beer off for, which and I think I was talking to Max, and you guys were doing some insane amount of shipments. Like, I think the one I was doing was like 30. And the one that he's like, he was like, it's like 900 or something. And I was just like,
more.
Yeah. And so,
I want to say it's a testament to you though, Chris. I mean, you are one of the leaders in this industry, and you're one of the few people who could actually do this type of work,
Right.
You got to give yourself credit there, buddy. I mean, that's why you have this show. That's why you were able to connect all of us. You do so much for so many people that it was natural for you to understand if people ask you to do a thing, you're like, okay, I'll do that. So, I mean, I think you should give advice in terms of like the advice that I would suggest you give people based on watching you is like,
here's my advice is say yes. Say yes. And then figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And just as an observer of what all your companies are, and we are paying attention to was incredibly strong brands. And when you talk about this, like when times are good, it seems like you're being, flippant, or you're being like, you're not focusing on the liquid, but that's really what sustains this, and brand being the thing that connects you to people and why they're connected to you. So like when we talk about all these restaurants closing down, the things that I'm personally going to be some of the most sad about are just corner bars in Chicago. They don't have like a strong brand. Like they're just like a cool corner bar that serves you your high life and your shot. And
Hooten Bar gone.
Another thing you've done, Chris, that I think is a good lesson for all of us and anyone listening is how diversified you've kind of built your businesses and your personal brand. And like
100%.
You added on your bar, which now a bar is not the greatest prospect, but before all of that, think of how much effort you put into a YouTube show and doing 200 episodes of a podcast, and how much that benefits and led to you being able to launch virtual classes and virtual tastings with companies and corporate tastings, and how less feasible that would have been had you not put all that. I can't even imagine how many hundreds of hours into not just the podcast, but the old video shows you did, because you did all that for what probably felt like nothing at the time, other than, just creating a personal brand that connected to your shop. That led to this new business opportunity that could, help offset, the hit at the bar, which I'm guessing isn't performing, can't perform like you would have wanted it to, but you put your eggs in a lot of different baskets. And kind of some of these old ones from a while back ended up paying off and are paying off right now, which is cool.
I was always super afraid I always wanted to have multiple potential revenue streams, not if something went bad, but if something kind of like, it was more like a fisherman who has a lot of lines out, and if something hits, you can kind of start reeling it in. That was kind of my sense. It's also, to be fair, something that is very much outside of my control, because I am a scatterbrained person. That's just how I am. I see something cool. I talked to Ed. I was doing a podcast at Mars, a one-time guest thing. Ed was there. First time I think I had really ever talked to Ed. I think I had maybe talked to him very briefly one time before. And he was like, hey, you did really well. If you ever want to come on and do your own show, and you meant like a one-off, like this show was. It was a one-off show. And I said yes. And I said, yes, I'll do one every single week. I've been already thinking about it because I'm crazy and think about this stuff. And I'm guessing you didn't really believe me at the time, because you probably thought, like so many other people, I was just going to flake out. But here I am. After flaking out for months. So I think that is part of it. Just like, yeah, this is cool. I want to do it.
Well, that's you saying yes, Chris. Like you said earlier, just say yes.
Yeah. Just say yes. Just try.
Just try. It doesn't matter. I mean, if Ruben Kincaid was here, he would be like, don't be afraid of being a successful failure. Don't be afraid of asking for anything. If someone says no, move on. Just start whatever you want. And if it doesn't work out, start the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's going to be all right.
Well, I think there's something that one of the biggest moments for me about just in general, and this applies now too, but Chris telling me how not impressed, but like profound it was when you guys were doing that 39th annual, 2nd annual, 6th time craft beer awards. And it was not probably finished. You probably weren't ready to do it, but you're like, no, we said we're doing it on this date. I do the things I say I'm going to do. And Chris being like, oh yeah, hell yeah. And so
I think
That's
Ed
something
yelled
that-
at me actually as well.
That was a kick in the butt for me too.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
we're not
yeah.
ready for this. And
But
Ed
but
just,
but
Ed
but
yelled
that
at me.
ethos.
I think it's the only time Ed truly yelled at me.
yeah.
I
Well,
remember I was in
I
the
wasn't-
grocery store at the time, and I had to be like, "Yo, Ed, what the fuck, man? Like, I'm not. Don't treat me like a flake." But I remember that. That was yeah.
But that-
Anyway, go on.
But that ethos of like, no, this is what we do, and having a clear sense of it, and then just delivering whatever the best you can do at the time you have to deliver it is super important.
Yeah. that's true.
So I don't know how that applies directly, but it was just something that seemed like a profound,
Oh,
like what deliver on the things that you say you're going to do, and like establish things that you believe in, and
Yeah,
go
and
and
then-
do them.
and Ed, you
That's a
are the
good-
master of that, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Well,
Better
no,
than
but
anyone
that's
I've
a
ever met.
well, that's a
Better
good
than anyone
segue.
I've ever met.
That's a good segue for me. I have to put Ruby to bed. Do what I said I
Say
was
yes
going to do.
to putting Ruby to bed.
But I've been trying to text to see if maybe, but maybe I'll join you guys in 15, 20 minutes. If not, thank you for having him on the show, Chris. I'm so glad to see you, Kate,
yeah.
Doug, and Mike, and Chris. And I love you guys so much.
Good talking.
Thank
Ed.
Love you
Me too.
too, Ed. Put Ruby to bed in some tie-dye PJs.
Of course.
I'm
that's all
just
we-
gonna grab a
We only
brewski.
wear tie-dye PJs here, Chris.
Naturally.
Doug's escaping.
Why don't we all take
Doug
we can
literally-
take a quick why don't we take a quick break, people getting beers and stuff like that. I'll mention I am drinking this
Oh,
beer,
yeah.
this
I'm drinking-
amalgamator.
I've been
drank a
drinking
four-pack of
Bell's
that.
Best Brown, and
Oh, what a
guys,
great beer.
it's really good.
Oh,
I'm-
Best Brown is so good.
I'm drinking a unfinished bottle of our smoked saison because I figured people don't really want to drink saisons anyway. It's a pandemic. Why not make exactly
Whoa,
the beer
what a
they don't want to drink?
Cross
I've also
stitch.
opened this one. It's a double
Brim.
decoction mash Vienna lager.
Very cool. This
That's
beer
good.
right
Chris,
here
Chris-
is badass. What's up? What's up, Ed?
I drank a
I was
4-pack
just-
of it.
I was gonna say, grab one of these when you see them come into the shop, and let me know what you think.
I love
It's
the
our
label on it.
Label's
West Coast
awesome.
IPA. Thanks.
And say what
Yeah.
it is out loud.
This is the West Coast IPA. So
West
I
Coast
pretty
Hero.
much said, sorry.
Double dry hopped.
I'm saying for the people listening is what I meant, Doug. Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were gonna edit this out. This
You
is
never know. You never know.
this is
Yeah,
West,
we're not
West
editing.
You're
Coast
dealing with
Hero,
me here, the master editor who,
Best of intentions, no edits.
all right, we're back. Took what was that, like 2 minutes off? And
Minute and a half. It's 48.
all the
seconds.
good stuff, guys. So you got to get on Patreon, which doesn't exist. But if you did, you'd get to see all that just happened.
So is the Patreon going to be
shit.
you like exploding your children?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
where I exploit my children. They're on camera. We're talking about all sorts of stuff.
They're
They're already
tasting
giving-
beer.
Teaser. This is a teaser.
They love barley
Going-
wine.
It's not that I love my children; it's I love their brands and I want to build them at an early age. Because that's really what you
I
want
mean,
to do.
Does it scare you knowing they're going to have they're going to have strong personal brands?
No, I mean, what else is there? I mean, their brands are going to be alpha. I mean,
Yeah.
so, that's what that's all
Just-
it's about. I want my children to use, just in everyday language. I want them to use boardroom terms. I want them to talk about, their brands. Their.
You want to talk about
I think it's a solid thing for
the
for,
ROI on their time for human
Exactly.
interaction?
Exactly.
enough.
Exactly.
Constantly asking who's getting lunch. Yeah. those kinds
Let's
of-
talk about a huge development that happened in the Chicago beer market recently, which is massive second tier consolidation. That being the distributors. Just like 10 years ago, like to me, like unfathomable, maybe not for others, but essentially what Windy City and CBS, both are now Reyes-owned companies.
They've been Reyes-owned for a minute, though, right?
For a minute. Doug has a better memory of what I said about it at the time, I'm sure, because he's just better, has a better memory than I do. But in my mind, I remember having Wes Phillips of Windy City at the time, he's gone, on and saying it's only a matter of time until all this consolidation comes together. And it's just like when a brewery is acquired and people say nothing's going to change, it's all total horse shit. And well, lo and behold, Windy City and CBS are coming closer together, and they've now officially taken the next step in merging together. Windy City being really a high-touch craft distribution house. At least that's how it started, and then it was bought by Reyes and so on and so forth. Reyes is the largest beer distributing company in the country, right, Doug? Right? I think they are, right? Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, you have Breakthru, which is the huge company that owns, the Chicago Blackhawks, and is probably the biggest, if not, they're definitely a close second biggest spirits distributor, who had gotten into the beer game late, but went hard at it, and just decided we are completely selling off our beer portfolio, and we're out of the game. Mic drop, we're out. Did I miss anything? Was there anything else in the distribution game that I missed? I think those are the two big things that happened within a week or two of each other. It all happened.
You didn't really say what happened.
What? What happened? What happened? What do you mean?
They both got absorbed.
So, yeah. Well, they merged, and then.
Well, you never even mentioned the Bud distributor who bought Breakthru's beer portfolio.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
yeah.
Lakeshore, the Bud House, bought 90% of the stuff coming from Breakthru, right? And probably 90 plus. And so now we're back to a blue house and a red house town. That's where we're at, right? I mean,
plus the smaller distributors like Adam Bavrick's distributor company. So, I mean, there are some small cottage distributors that have popped up in the last couple of years, sort of in response to the looming consolidation.
Right.
Bavrick's but yes, yeah.
But for Chris, Vavrick and AJ Maka are places that will call on them and sell beer, but for the access point to a million other,
it's only localized
accounts. It's also just this is, I think, is a thing more nationally too. The access point to the majority of accounts is through the distributor. Most places don't want to deal with your self-distribution or your independent distributors who are essentially self-distributors that just have a couple other brands in their portfolios, or maybe just do hot drops. So now there's only 2 distributors in Chicago that sell craft beer anymore, which is
no. There's Glunn's too. Glunn's is the one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like we're off the mark here. Chicago.
Recontextualize this, Doug.
Yeah,
we're not off the mark.
So heading into August, Chicago was probably the richest town in terms of options for beer distributors compared to just about any other market. And unfortunately, 2 very strong options for craft within 2 to 3 weeks of each other got folded in. Windy City, which was an all craft house from Lagunitas, was their biggest, was no pun
Nice.
intended. Their biggest supplier,
His
and
was the biggest supplier.
a lot of other great craft brands like
Great.
Oscar Blues, Stone, Allagash. That's all Windy City. That got merged with the other
Three Floyds.
Riz distributor.
Right,
Three
sorry.
Floyds got merged with Chicago Beverage, which is a Miller Coors, Constellation, Heineken, Sam Adams, New Belgium, Revolution, House. They got merged together, so they owned them for 8 years and operated them separately. And then at this point, I'm sure didn't make sense to have two separate warehouses, two separate fleets of trucks, two separate a lot of things, and they brought them together. They announced that. Wasn't necessarily a surprise to anyone. It was just, but it is a big deal. It was like a shoe that everybody was waiting to drop.
Why did they wait so long to do that? Like 8 years is a long time to keep those types of entities separate that have so much overlap.
It's not been 8 years, has it? It hasn't been 8 years.
Yeah, it has been 8 years. 2012. I worked at Riz when it happened. It was 2012. Promise.
So why do you think they waited 8 years to actually officially consolidate and to share the resources that they would have? Like, wow. Was it just
there's probably a lot of
perception,
reasons. They probably had a lease on the warehouse at Windy City, so they probably were stuck with that. But also, Windy City's footprint is completely different than Chicago Beverage. Chicago Beverage is mostly like Cook County in the city, and it's not even the whole city, whereas Windy City is like the whole 8 counties. So it's not easy to merge a distributor where you have 8 counties, where you do all these big craft brands with a small, but definitely the most popular. Chicago Beverage is the most populated part of Chicago, of course, because it's downtown, the city, but it's much smaller and it's a completely different portfolio. They overlap in the city, but then they don't overlap in the majority geography wise. So it's operationally, it's not an easy thing to just say, hey, let's just smash these together.
Got it.
There's those two things, and there's a whole lot more, but that's like kind of the beginning of it. But also Salesforce. I mean, they each, I couldn't tell you how many brands each distributor has, but Windy City probably well over like 40 different suppliers. Chicago Beverage, probably less, but not a whole lot less. It's hard to put those together and then expect the same sales force to all of a sudden be doubling up on that. You kind of need separate sales forces, and that's from what I understand what they're going with from the get-go anyway. Like Windy City is still having their own sales force out there for now, as far as I know. So it's not easy at all. Like they're covering totally different geographies, but the idea is that the same beer can now get on the same trucks from an actual logistics standpoint. But
at least the geographies they overlap.
Yeah, but again, the Miller, the Constellation, all that is still they only have the Chicago Beverage territory of that. So it's very only partially overlapping distribution territories for the two businesses. So they'll have their hands full figuring that out. So that was the one thing, and that was a big deal. But that alone, again, would probably not have set off, as much conversation. But within 2 weeks, the breakthrough, which was a solid option for a brewery looking for distribution in Chicago, who's like a decent sized brewery. They decided to get out, and they sold their portfolio. They're still very, very much in the spirits distribution world, which is their bread and butter. They sold their craft brands, or the ones that Lakeshore wanted, Lakeshore being the Budweiser house, over to Budweiser. So 2 great options for, call it, I don't know what you define as mid-size, but let's say a mid-size or like a decent enough size that you'd go with a distributor beyond the the really, really small boutique ones. They were two decent options that went away. We still do have Glun's, which is like the Pabst. Pabst is their biggest brand, but they have many imports and plenty of other, both local and solid other craft options. There's Heartland. With Brian Kirby's been on the show. Heartland has a lot of great local brands. They have developed a very interesting portfolio of their own. So there's, even before getting to the Adam Vavricks and the AJ Maka, which are very small, just probably a few employees, I'm guessing, if that. There's still more options here than most. We just lost like two of the better options for a craft brewery first time going to a distributor.
I mean, we're also Chicago. I mean, this isn't fucking like Cleveland. I mean, no offense, but it's like, come on.
It's not Bowling Green. Like,
this is a huge beer market, and it's been getting, from a distribution standpoint, shittier. I've talked about this for a while on the show.
What makes it shittier to you from a...
I noticed it probably about 18 to 24 months ago, and I noticed it from CB. Whatever, I'll get myself in trouble potentially. Probably more.
Hypothetically, from a retailer's perspective, what of the current circumstance has made things more difficult?
The current circumstance that just happened, that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
It's a continuation of things. So I've already been hearing from the parties involved in some of these mergers saying, like, you know, if you need a second drop of the week, like that no longer will be able to happen. We're just not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to service you in the same way. You know, if you're going to have a second drop every week, you have to have that scheduled, and you have to have it every week, and you have to have a minimum, and you have to do this, and you have to do that.
So less personable, less actual service, and more just kind of...
I would like to say it less willing.
Okay. Less willing to accommodate non...
Yeah, just like, can you do this? And then just being like, no.
That's not what...
No. And I remember the first time that happened was, like I was saying before, 18 to 24 months ago, with one of the big guys who was really kind of trying to be more touchy, trying to be more like Windy City at the time was. And it was great. I thought it was like a wonderful merger of big beer sensibility and appreciation for a growing market. And then I think they realized that, you know, the exponential growth of craft was not going to keep going like this. And and they're like, okay, we don't have to worry about that anymore. So fuck all that shit. We're not dealing with that anymore. And let's just pump this stuff. And it was like a light switch. I mean, it was like 1 week it was like this, the next week it was like that. And it's just been continuing now to get like that. And it is bad for...
How will it affect
craft beer enthusiasts? I think it's bad for the type of craft beer enthusiasts that I cater to.
How will it affect them on like a actual in-store purchasing?
My places like the Beer Temple's ability to bring in cool stuff is greatly diminished. So
what percentage of the beer in your store comes from these retailers? Like 90% of it?
But yeah, I don't know if it's 90.
What percentage is like self-distributed? Because this is like self-distributed seems like an important thing for small people, small breweries, and
a lot for us to self-distro, but it's well over 50, and I'll say, like, stuff that would not have happened anytime up until a year ago, maybe a little longer, depending on who the distributor was. But now it's becoming more and more common. Now it's happening with Windy as well, and now it's going to be even worse. Is the rep, or let's say a rep walks in from, I would say, an underserved brewery from the distributor rep perspective. So for those of you guys who are listening who may not understand, you have a distributor rep who reps the entire book. Hypothetically, they do. Really, they represent the top few of the entire book of a distributor, right? So the distributor has the rights to all these brands, right? All these brands being all these breweries. They sell their rights to sell their beer in a certain market. And they have reps. They have sales reps who take orders and stuff like that. Then you have brewery reps who the idea is, listen, this salesperson is only going to be able to focus on so many things. I want extra attention for my brewery, so I'm going to put a rep in the market to focus on my stuff, right? Okay. So now a brewery rep walks in and says, Joe Blow distributor, who we're with, carries us, and here's our seasonals. This is all this stuff. This is really cool, right? And I say, wow, that sample you gave me is exceptional. That stuff's really awesome. And then I go to the distributor rep and say, hey, they gave me a sample of this, or I didn't even get a sample maybe, but next season they're going to have this beer. That sounds really interesting to me. I want to buy it. And just being like, yeah, no, we're not bringing that one in. It's like, wait, you rep this brewery. Yeah, we're not bringing that beer in. How much do I have to order? What if I order like a layer on a pallet on the next shipment? Yeah, we're not really interested in doing that. That is new, and that is getting worse, and that is bad for, I think, the craft market overall, and certainly bad for the type of craft beer market that I am passionate about, which is like maybe like off-centered stuff that just
off-centered ales
for off-centered people like me,
Yeah.
So one thing that I was just going to say, like a big concern that we're going down one way, but like the big picture concern should be like, if we use and I totally made up these numbers, but in general, if a distributor with 40 breweries combines with another distributor of 40 breweries in the same market, the fear is that the new one distributor that's a result will look at their 80 and say, these smallest 15 don't make sense for us anymore.
Smallest 50.
Well, I'm just being
right. You're being nice, but it's not being fair. It's the smallest 50 is more accurate.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whatever amount that leads to, that's a lot of places looking now what do we do? And then fewer options, of course. And then you might have, they might get let off the hook for no cost and be able to, be kind of free agents, but the interest might not be out there, one person.
What is the likelihood they're let off the hook at no cost to be free agents? Is that
very likely in a case like this, because they don't have much value if they're that small, if they're that far down the list.
Well, during the merger, I think you have 60 days. You have 60 days, I think, to announce, and then you can go for free, right? Right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But
it's tricky, but yeah.
What's up, Mike?
No, if you're bottom 15, maybe, but if you're bottom 50, if you're the number 50 out of 80, is that the same? They'll just let you walk, or is it?
Yeah, I feel like
I'm not asking you to know, Doug, but like in your estimation, what would that be like? If you're 50, are they gonna let you walk?
I think you have the ability to walk, but if you go to another house, it's literally different in every state. In Illinois, I think they can. I think they'd have to pay compensation if they went to another house, unless they were
This
let off the hook.
with
I
like
don't, I
the
don't.
with all of the regulation around like the 3-tier laws and just all of that, there's not really enough regulation around just the distribution
And it sucks.
industry and what that can do for a brewery when you wind up like shackled to a portfolio more or less, or and especially like retailers like you, Chris, you're unable to have the benefit of all of the options that a distributor could bring because there's other like big box stores, like your Trader Joe's, maybe less so like a Trader Joe's, but other stores that maybe like a Whole Foods now that are like, hey, we just want this to be streamlined. We don't want any variation. We want things to come in at this exact predictable pace. And so like the amount of like almost like boutique service or servicing that distributors are doing is probably minimizing.
Right. I mean, layer on a pallet does not seem like boutique service for a craft beer distributor. I'll also say, I mean, I said 50 and Doug said 15. I'm going to go back and say, I think it's really more like the bottom 60 out of 80, or maybe the bottom 65 out of 80.
Maybe the bottom 70.
Maybe
the bottom 80.
I mean, for real, man.
Maybe the bottom 90.
Out of 80.
I'm kind of joking, but that's
you have a couple. You have like 5 maybe top tier ones that they go after,
right.
And then the rest are like. Then you have the ones that are like they sell really well, so they always mention them. And then you have like the also rans, and that's just a slow death. And the thing is, those brands are trapped. They cannot go anywhere. And it's not that the beer is worse. It's not that the demand is less. It's that the distributor may, or for whatever reason, I'm not going to say the distributor, it has been decided that that brand in that market is not going to be a focus. So that used to not really be a problem with a lot of the craft houses, and it's becoming a severe problem in Chicago. I am now going to smaller markets and seeing them crushing us, for example, on imports. Imports are getting slaughtered here in Illinois right now. It's a shame. Our import game is a shadow of what it used to be when the Beer Temple opened. And I'll say for people like Perennial, I just found out today, Perennial moved to Heartland. And I'll say right now, as soon as I found out about this deal, I reached out to Perennial and said, you have been buried in this book. If you're interested, and I just found out today, not from someone at Perennial, someone from at the Beer Temple told me that they're now going to be with Heartland. And I hope that's true. I haven't verified that with Heartland or Perennial. But this is, the hot take hour. And I hope that's true because that's a wonderful brewery that I want to support and was not able to support. And I cannot tell you how aggravating that is. It's like, this is a brewery with beer that is good from people that I care about, that customers want to drink, and I want to buy, and I cannot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what the hell is wrong here?
In that type of situation, is it that you, even if you seek it out to a distributor rep or something, like where are you being shut down in the operation in your
distributor? It was the distributor. It was the distributor 100%. But in what way are you saying?
Yeah, like for someone who doesn't know the ins and outs of buying beer, like at what point do you ask for the beer and at what point are they like, no? It's like, are you looking at it and you're like, oh, this isn't a book, I want that, and they're like, sorry, we don't have it? Or like, how are you being shut out? I mean, obviously it's being carried in some way. So are they telling you that they're not bringing it to the Chicago market?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We are not bringing in that SKU. Okay. That's what it is. We are
to me, a lot of breweries were able to succeed in Chicago in 2013, 2014, 2015 and be really popular because our local scene here was underdeveloped. So they were a much more major part of their distributor's book. And the getting was good around that time period. And then the Chicago scene got so developed in the last 5 years, and local became so huge here that a lot of those breweries, their volume slipped so much because they had, in Chicago, they had so much more competition that they became so diminished in their distributor's book that that led to them falling out of favor, and because they became so small, and then in many cases eventually just got let go. And then it's, you know, not a matter of compensation because it's so small. We're talking about so few cases of beer that they're just kind of like free to go.
Yeah.
And I can think of 20 examples like that. And so that's part of it, is that a lot of these breweries were able to do well here. I mean, Stone was huge in Chicago in 2013 because there wasn't that much to buy in Chicago then. There was some, but there wasn't a lot. And so Stone was able to flourish. And I couldn't imagine what fraction they do now compared to what they did 7 years ago here.
But that's this. I think that's an extreme example. Stone is. I think the smaller regional people are a much better example for what I'm talking about, rather than a national craft brand.
Well, I don't think it's extreme. It's just the biggest example. I mean, I could go on down the list. It's just the one that was the most volume to the smallest amount. There's ones that were here and went here.
Well, that's the definition of extreme, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the biggest. It's the biggest example.
The biggest to the smallest. That's extreme.
Right. So there's like little people, but I will say there's a lot are kind of like the, you know, the median, and that is where that's where the value, that is why people are searching this stuff out. And I'll also tell you, it also makes it a lot harder when you have breweries who are just, I got to be careful what I say. I have to be empathetic.
Take hour.
I have to be empathetic.
No empathy.
Take hour.
So people need to sell beer. They need to sell beer. They don't have a lot of cash reserves, so they can't maybe try to build a brand or a style that may not be represented. But I will tell you, except for like Midwest Coast Brewing, who, kudos to them for winning a GABF medal for their bitter. Hell yeah to them. I will also say the first keg they ever sold outside of their own tap room was to the Beer Temple, and we put it on draft, that beer that won a medal, because it is a good beer, and
it's delicious,
and it's and people want it, people want to drink it, and they took a risk, and good for them, because so much is, if the easy sale is all I can afford to risk to brew right now, is what it feels like. I have no idea what happens in the rooms or the Zoom meetings that you're in, Kate. But there's
about like deciding what
same. I've been saying it forever.
Well,
and I'm starting to, and I said years ago, my prediction was that there's going to be a pushback, and I'm probably terribly wrong, but people are coming to me. I am on like these calls, these remote classes, and people who don't really know anything about beer are asking, why is there so much hoppy beer these days? And I can't say, well, because it's the best. It's like, well, I don't know. Why is there so much light lager? It's really the same answer at this point. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, the way that Pipeworks has been, or that we've been kind of structuring what we brew is, right now we have like a gingerbread beer on the schedule and a Dunkel, we have a Sabro hopped beer and a Baltic porter. So, and we have a grisette that's coming out. So like, I really, from our standpoint, it's still driven primarily kind of like what Doug was saying, just on innovation, where it's still guided.
No, it's not on innovation. None of that stuff's innovative. Let's not use that word anymore.
Okay, well, on innovation, as in we're brewing a beer that we haven't brewed before, so it's a completely new recipe for us, written by.
It's innovative to Pipeworks.
Innovative to Pipeworks. We're not.
That's not.
But
That's not innovation, though.
You're free to use it in my book.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
Not for mine.
What I'm saying. All right, fine. We're not innovating, but we are brewing something that's, as I was referencing,
experimenting maybe.
We're doing something new. It's a new thing. We're still doing stuff that's not, it's not just only guided by what's immediately going to sell. There's still a hope and a risk that people are going to look into what we're going to do for a grisette. That's something that we're trying to hope, bank on. But and then you look at like I'm drinking a Bell's Best Brown right now, and those companies, people who are still making like brown ales, I don't think it needs to be, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't think it needs to be 100% hops. I think there is an exhaustion to that point. I think there's an exhaustion for lactose and all of those types of things. It really just comes down to maybe people aren't seeking that out within the same brewery. Instead, they're seeking that out just kind of across all the portfolio that they're exposed to.
I think they should innovate by thinking what clothing line they should collaborate with. I think that's really where they should zag. Rather than looking at styles that are underrepresented, they should look at a clothing brand to collab with. But anyway, that has to be.
That's a good segue.
I think tie-dye. It sounds like we have Ed's tie-dye company to collaborate with, so I don't know why we're pretending.
What's the segue, Doug?
Segue to the end of the show or to
right.
The 5.5 hour show.
Well, this was supposed to be the quick and easy discussion, this distributor thing per Doug. But what's the segue?
Well, I didn't know you were going to air your grievances. So
I think
you've been on the show before, right, Doug?
Come on, man. Come on.
Really?
Shame on you. Shame on you.
A podcast topic that what is innovation according to Mike, I think is what we need to discuss.
I like that.
I mean, it's easy. It's not things that other breweries have already done and perfected that you're just trying out to sell it to people. So that's what innovation is.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that. I want to know what the segue was. What's a good segue? It's a good segue.
It was you getting mad about teaming up with other brands.
We can't do that now. That's gonna go forever. I mean,
started. I do have to go. I am very tired.
It's 11:30.
It's 11:30.
Man, I don't think we can. I think it has to be either or. But that'll be a good cliffhanger. I don't know how many episodes it'll be, but I will say that there was a heated discussion in private amongst some of the people on this show about that topic exactly. And I think honestly, collaborations and stuff like that. You were not on the discussion, Mike. You were probably working.
I missed 183.
You were innovating. You were innovating on your rustic farmhouse sale.
Innovating on the oldest style of beer.
Mine has spelt.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm innovating.
Oh, stop! I'm
just
kidding.
saying
innovative.
The use of innovation is bullshit. Anyway, it's time to end this show.
What is rustic?
What is?
I've never used that word in any real
there
way.
rust in it?
That's not terroir. That's not terroir.
You know what, Mike?
Right, so you're all admitting that terroir, rustic, and innovation are just useless terms? Cool, let's move forward from there.
Oh.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Mike. So
I'm right. Don't get mad at me.
Don't get mad at me because I'm right about everything. Let's see. What is the last thing we want to do? Okay. I think we should probably just end it. Wait, but we have to end it on something nice. We can't all be angry. This is
I'm not angry.
How about closing words?
Fits the
How
group
about
chat.
closing words in the form of an insult of another person on this show? Okay. Closing words, Doug. Go.
What did I say on the show? Okay, so this winter, find some things you love to do or things you've been meaning to do, things you've been meaning to get better at. Do it. Double down on it, triple down on it, get into it, go crazy, and then do what I was saying about Chris earlier, about diversifying. Whatever you do, like get a couple extra pots going. Kind of goes with my earlier point. Get good at something else. Have fun. Use this time to do something you've been meaning to do. Don't make excuses. Just do it.
Just do it. You see, really what he's doing is priming you for the new Nike collab that he's working on. Got it.
It was a Seinfeld episode where the guy redoing his kitchen couldn't make a decision, and Jerry goes, "Just do it."
Okay. Anyone else want to go next for their closing words? I have to think about mine now. I wasn't
Now's
ready.
a good time to be supporting the local brands that you love and the brands that you stand by. So if you're going out to purchase something, maybe take a couple minutes to just figure out if there's a way to purchase it from a company that's maybe, local and not a giant corporation. Not that those companies don't employ people too, but consider where your money goes and use your money to vote in support in the same way that you can use your vote to vote and support.
You're here.
That's mine.
Absolutely, 100%. You should be doing that all the time.
Same.
Vote with your dollars.
Build off of Kate. You've got a bunch of time. You don't need 2-day shipping right now. Find people close to you, and you have time to look up places that you can keep your dollar locally. So it might be a little bit more expensive. You might have free shipping. You might not be able to watch stream videos on their website, but find places close to you and try to support them.
And if you can't support with money, small businesses, it's kind of been like a circulated idea, but supporting with like positive reviews and supporting with positive feedback on different companies, Instagrams, Facebooks, whatever. Just trying to find a way to just lend like even a nice note or like a message of support to companies that are doing whatever they're doing to keep their people employed.
I'll kind of glom onto that. If you spend a little bit of time, I bet you can think or else find a business that it is not charity to be supporting, but their products are actually better. They are more knowledgeable about their products, and they care about their products. And where their products come from are probably from a better source. So take some time and do some due diligence, and it will benefit you karmically, but also probably financially. It'll just be a better value for what you're actually getting, and certainly quality wise. So it isn't necessarily charity. I'm not a big fan of just pure charity, but there are people locally out there who are taking the time to find better stuff for you. So do it. And better stuff might be, I can walk into a store and they have the ability for me to actually ask somebody a question about this thing. That's very valuable these days, I think. So I would say that as my closing statement, as well as I apologize to all of the Beer Temple customers, so to speak, who have expected us to push a certain amount of stuff to them, especially now when everyone's pushing. We are trying to do our best for everybody. I'm trying to do my best for employees. And I feel like we've slipped a little bit. We are just trying to keep pace. And everybody's trying to keep pace right now. So, you know, this is a crazy year, and we're going to get through it. And, you know, just be a little bit more mindful. Don't just go with 2-day shipping. Don't believe the commercial that says that these big guys support little businesses. Very misleading, you know, when they say, we've pumped so much money into small businesses. Yeah, those small businesses are also getting a 30% cut because of the big business that's, you know, using their marketplace. That's all I had to say. I also want to thank all my guests. All joking aside, this is a panel that we were all, I hope, all genuinely excited to have on, and it's fun to have the show back, and it's been great. Thank you guys. I mean, thank you to Kate, Doug, and Mike, and even Edmar, and yeah, it's been nice to have actual meaningful conversations about this sort of stuff. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Chris. It's been really nice to just talk about beer.
Yeah, I missed the show. I missed talking to you guys about all this stuff.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, let's I'll call it a night, and I'll let you know what month is it. It's not all right.
It's March of 2021, so this came out right on time.
Yeah, exactly. Happy St. Patrick's Day, guys.
Hey.
Yeah, the bars tomorrow. So long. Bye.
Remember, this is what.
All right, I'll probably cut it there. Thank you, guys.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.